There's a truth that few dare speak aloud, but one that echoes silently in the souls of those who have been marked by destiny. Not all solitude is abandonment. Not all silence is emptiness. And not every solitary journey is a sign of failure. In fact, there exists a rare type of person who walks alone not because they were rejected by the world, but because they were chosen for a purpose the crowd could never understand. That person is you. And if this message has reached you at this exact moment, it's not coincidence. It's confirmation. You're not alone by chance. You're alone by divine design. Your solitude isn't punishment. It's preparation. And those who cannot walk beside you haven't abandoned you. They simply weren't equipped for the altitude of your destiny. Most people interpret isolation as social rejection, as failure to connect, as evidence that something is fundamentally wrong with them. They spend years trying to fix what was never broken, forcing connections that were never meant to last, dimming their light so others feel comfortable in the darkness. But you, chosen one, carry a different frequency. Your energy doesn't resonate with superficiality. Your soul doesn't feed on empty conversations. Your spirit finds no rest in places where authenticity is sacrificed to the altar of acceptance. And that's why your journey feels so different. That's why your paths rarely align with those of the masses. Not because you're inferior, but precisely because you're extraordinary. Here are 7 undeniable signs that your solitude isn't a curse, but the mark of the chosen, and why walking alone is the clearest evidence that you're walking your divine path. First, you notice that superficial conversations drain your energy like nothing else can. While others seem to thrive on dialogue about trivialities, gossip about absent people, endless discussions about the weather or mundane happenings of daily life, you feel something die inside you with every minute spent in these interactions. It's not arrogance. It's not superiority. It's simply a vibrational incompatibility. Your soul was designed for depth. You crave conversations that explore the meaning of existence, that question the nature of reality, that dive into the mysteries of human purpose and spiritual transformation. You want to talk about dreams that frighten, fears that paralyze, truths that liberate. You want to explore philosophy at 3 a.m, discuss synchronicities that defy logic, share insights that emerge from suffering transformed into wisdom. But when you try to steer conversations into these deeper waters, something strange happens. People look away. They change the subject quickly. They make jokes to relieve the tension your depth has created. Or worse, they look at you as if you're too heavy, too intense, too complicated. And then you learn. You learn to keep your deepest truths to yourself. You learn to smile politely during conversations that don't nourish your soul. You learn that conscious solitude is infinitely preferable to company that demands you diminish yourself. This doesn't happen because you're antisocial or because there's something wrong with you. It happens because you've been awakened to dimensions of existence that most are still sleeping through. Your solitude in this context isn't isolation. It's energy preservation. It's the sacred refusal to waste your life force on interactions that drain without nourishing. You're alone in these situations because your soul is conserving energy for the connections that truly matter, for the conversations that truly transform, for the people who truly see you. Second, you've noticed that your values no longer align with what society celebrates. While the world applauds material accumulation, you seek spiritual wealth. While others chase external validation through likes, followers, and approval from the masses, you search for internal validation through alignment with your higher self. While the crowd runs after temporary pleasures that numb but never satisfy, you've chosen a harder path of real transformation, of uncomfortable growth, of truth that hurts before it heals. This misalignment isn't subtle. It's glaring. You can no longer pretend interest in conversations about who bought what, who's dating whom, which celebrity caused which scandal. You can't get excited about empty competitions for social status. You don't feel envy for lives that look perfect on social media, but are empty inside. You see through the masks that others wear so comfortably. And this level of vision creates natural distance. People feel, even unconsciously, that you're not playing the same game they are, that you're not competing for the same rewards, that you measure success by completely different metrics. And this makes them uncomfortable, not because you judge them, but because your existence silently questions their choices. Your presence is a living reminder that there's another way to live, another way to measure value, another kind of wealth that cannot be bought or displayed. So they pull away, not out of hatred, but out of self-preservation. And you're alone again, but this solitude is sacred. It's the space created when you refuse to bow to the false idols that society worships. It's a natural distance that emerges when you choose authenticity over acceptance. You're not alone because you failed to conform. You're alone because you had the courage to break free. And this freedom, however lonely it may seem, is the mark of the truly chosen. Third, you've gone through a transformation so profound that people from your previous life no longer recognize you. There was a moment, perhaps a crisis, perhaps a gradual awakening, perhaps an experience that completely shattered who you thought you were. And on the other side of that transformation, you emerged different, fundamentally different. Your priorities changed. Your tastes changed. Your tolerances changed. What once entertained you now bores you. What once impressed you now seems empty. People who were once your closest now seem like strangers speaking a language you no longer speak. And the distance between who you were and who you become has created a chasm that not everyone can cross. Friendships that seemed eternal disappeared without major conflicts, simply through frequency incompatibility. Family members who thought they knew you look at you with confusion, unable to understand what happened, why you've changed so much, why you're no longer the person you used to be. And you try to explain. You try to put into words the internal journey you've traveled, the revelations you've had, the truths you've discovered about yourself and about the nature of reality. But words are inadequate. Spiritual transformation doesn't fit into linear explanations. And so you stop trying. You stop justifying. You stop apologizing for having evolved. And you accept that part of growth is letting go of old versions of yourself and the people who only love those versions. This acceptance brings solitude, yes, but it also brings peace. The peace of finally stopping the pretense of being who you no longer are. The peace of honoring your evolution, even when others don't understand it. Your solitude here isn't loss. It's liberation. It's the sacred space between who you were and who you're beckoning to space only you can occupy while you rebuild your identity in alignment with your deepest truth. Fourth, you possess an energetic sensitivity that most people haven't developed, and it makes common environments absolutely exhausting for you. You walk into a crowded party, and within minutes you can feel the weight of dozens of people's unprocessed energies. Anxiety floating in the air like invisible smoke. Unspoken resentments creating fields of tension that you walk through as if they were tangible. Insecurities projected so loudly you can almost hear them. And all of this hits you like waves you didn't ask to surf. You absorb, you process, you carry, and then you need days to recover from a single night of socializing that others describe as fun. This isn't weakness. This isn't a social defect. This is a heightened capacity for energetic perception, a gift you possess, and that most don't even believe exists. But you know it exists because you live with its consequences every day. You know when someone is lying not by their words, but by the dissonance you feel. You know when an environment is toxic before any visible conflict arises. You sense changes in people before they themselves recognize them. And this sensitivity, as valuable as it is, has a cost. The cost is that you cannot simply exist lightly in spaces where others move effortlessly. You need silence to recalibrate. You need solitude to clear the energies you've accumulated. You need time alone not because you're antisocial, but because you're highly perceptive. And highly perceptive people need much more recovery time than those who move through the world without registering its subtler frequencies. So you choose solitude, not because you prefer to always be alone, but because you've learned that your peace of mind depends on protecting your energy rigorously. And this conscious choice of solitude is a mark of wisdom, not pathological isolation. Fifth, you're receiving downloads of information, creative insights, and spiritual direction that can only come in silence. There's a communication happening between you and something greater. You can call it the universe, higher consciousness, the divine. Expanded intuition, the name doesn't matter. What matters is that this communication requires quietness. It requires that you step away from the constant noise of civilization, from people's endless opinions, from cacophony of external voices trying to tell you who you should be and what you should do. When you finally allow yourself to be alone, truly alone, without distractions, without constant entertainment, without the white noise of social interactions filling every moment, something extraordinary happens. Answers begin to come. Clarity emerges. Ideas you would never have access in the midst of social chaos begin to flow through you. You receive insights about your purpose, understandings about patterns that were limiting you, directions about next steps you need to take. And all of this comes in the silence, in the solitude, in the moments when you're alone but completely present with yourself. This isn't ordinary solitude. This is sacred solitude. It's the womb where your next version is being gestated. It's the laboratory where your transformation is being forged. It's the temple where you connect with dimensions of reality that the noise of the world completely drowns out. And you realize that many of the people you thought you needed in your life were actually distractions preventing you from receiving what the universe was trying to deliver to you. Your current solitude isn't divine abandonment. It's divine orchestration. You've been placed in temporary isolation, so you could hear clearly the instructions that only arrive when everything else falls silent. And when you finally understand this, solitude stops hurting and begins to feel sacred. 6. You're being prepared for a mission that requires a strength that can only be built in solitude. Look at all the great prophets, spiritual masters, visionaries, and transformers of human history. Almost all of them went through prolonged periods of isolation before emerging with their messages, their healings, their contributions that changed the world. Moses in the desert, Jesus in the wilderness, Buddha under the tree, Muhammad in the cave. These weren't punishments. They were preparations. The desert isn't where you go to die. It's where you go to be reborn, stripped of everything that isn't essential. And you're in your desert now. Your solitude is your cave. Your isolation is your Bodhi tree. You're being prepared to carry something greater than yourself, a message that needs to be delivered, a healing that needs to be offered, a truth that needs to be spoken, an example that needs to be lived. And this preparation cannot happen in the comfort of easy connections. It cannot happen when you're distracted by others' emotional needs. It cannot happen when you're constantly adjusting to fit, molding yourself to please, diminishing yourself so as not to threaten. Your solitude is burning away these tendencies. It's forging you into something stronger, clearer, more aligned. You're being tempered like steel that must pass through fire to gain its maximum strength. And when you finally emerge from this period, you won't be the same person who entered it. You'll be a refined instrument, a calibrated tool, a clean channel for something much greater than yourself. The people who couldn't walk with you through this desert weren't lost. They were released. Because the mission that awaits you on the other side requires a version of you that could only be forged in absolute solitude. 7th, and perhaps the most powerful of all, you've discovered that your best company is yourself. There was a time when solitude was unbearable, when being alone meant being with your thoughts, and your thoughts were a battlefield of self-criticism, doubts, fears, and regrets. When silence was oppressive because it amplified all the negative internal voices you spent your life trying to drown out through distractions, relationships, work, entertainment, anything to avoid having to be with yourself. But something changed. Through the inner work you've done, through the healing you've allowed, through the forgiveness you've granted yourself, you've transformed your relationship with yourself. And now, perhaps for the first time in your entire life, you genuinely like your own company. You can sit in silence without agony. You can spend days alone without despair. You can enjoy your own reflections, appreciate your own thoughts, value your own perspectives. You become your own best friend, your own wisest counsel, your own most reliable source of comfort. And this emotional and spiritual self-sufficiency is terrifying to a world that profits from your dependence, a world that wants you to believe you're only complete when you're in a relationship, that you're only valid when you're being validated by others, that you're only happy when you're accompanied. But you've discovered the lie. You've discovered that completeness comes from within, that the most important validation is your own, that the most stable happiness is the one you cultivate independently of external circumstances or the presence of other people. This doesn't mean you don't value connections. It means you no longer need them to survive. You desire them, but you don't depend on them. You appreciate them, but you don't lose yourself in them. You open yourself to them, but you don't annul yourself for them. And this difference is shift from need to preference, from dependence to choice is a mark of profound spiritual maturity. Your solitude has taught you what years of relationships could not. It's taught you that you are enough, that you always were enough, and that anyone who enters your life now won't be filling a void, but complementing a completeness that already exists. Chosen one, understand this with absolute clarity. Your solitude isn't evidence that you're unlovable. It's evidence that you're being refined for connections that honor who you truly are, not diluted versions you needed to be accepted. You're not alone because you were forgotten by the universe. You're alone because you're being reminded of who you really are when all external definitions are removed. Your solitary journey isn't a punishment. It's a privilege. It's the mark of those who are chosen to see beyond, to feel more deeply, and eventually to guide others through the same transformation you're going through now. The world needs people who have the courage to walk alone through the desert, who face their internal demons without an audience to applaud, who rebuilt their identity without an instruction manual, who found their own light when all external lights went out. You weren't born to follow the crowd. You were born to blaze trails where others will have the courage to follow later. And trails aren't opened by committees. They're opened by courageous solitaries who trust the inner voice more than the external chorus. This is the Veil of Vibration channel. If this message resonated in the deepest fiber of your soul, if every word seemed written specifically for you, if you felt chills of recognition while listening, this is not coincidence. It's confirmation. You are exactly where you need to be. Subscribe to this channel now to receive more messages destined to strengthen, validate, and guide the chosen ones on their solitary but sacred journeys. And for those who recognize that this video arrived at the perfect divine moment, type 333 in the comments to affirm your alignment and activate the blessings that are waiting for you on the other side of this transformative solitude. Your isolation is ending. Your mission is beginning. And everything you went through alone is about to make sense in ways you can't even imagine yet.